team to this webinar, and thank you for your interest in joining us today, and also to the two speakers that will be sharing their views and their good practices on RFOs or gender equality in funding mechanisms today. My name is Zulema Altamirano. I'm the director of the unit, Women and Science unit in the Ministry of Science and Innovation. And I have the pleasure of introducing today to this webinar and these two speakers. So before giving them the floor, just a few practicalities for you to know. The first of it is that this webinar is being recorded. So and then it will be published through the Supera website afterwards. So if you want to anonymize yourself, you can do it through the online platforms to Zoom. Secondly, please keep your microphones and cameras off during the sessions so we improve the connections. And last week, we will have Maxime Fortes, part of the Supera team, as moderator for the last part, questions and answers. I will give him the floor later on. So he will be the one just moderating the last part of the session. Please use the chat box at any time to make your questions. They can be in English or even in Spanish if you feel more comfortable. So we will make sure that we translate them to all participants for them to be understood. The idea will be to because we don't know how many questions we'll have, to join the questions and to select them and for them to go one by one to the two speakers we have today. Secondly, for those who have the first understanding of what Supera, you first know about Supera project. Supera is an Horizon 2020 support project with the aim of achieving gender equality in research through institutional change. Part of the Supera team is doing that by the designing and implementation of gender equality plans in 4 universities and 2 RFO, 2 research funding organizations. So regarding these 2 RFOs is where the Ministry of Science and Innovation is. One of these 2 RFOs is the State Agency of Research at national level in Spain, and the second one is in Italy, is the Anonymous Region of Sardinia. So those are the 2 RFOs that we are working with in the framework of Supera project for the design and implementation of these gender equality plans. We have the pleasure today of listening for the first time of this gender equality plan in the Spanish state of agency of research. So that will be, we are really happy for this for the team to share this presentation today. Apart from this, we would like to, as this is another ambition of the Supera project, is to create a network of RFOs, and that's there is where these webinars are. This is the 3rd webinar we are celebrating, and our aim is for this to support a start of a changing of practices or initiative related to gender equality, how to improve this gender equality within the RFOs, and also to impact at the same time in gender equality in other organizations through the work that they are developing in a mainstreaming way. Part of it is to improve this network at regional, national, and also at EU level. So coming back to today's webinar, this gender equality in funding mechanisms, we will be sharing 2 experiences. One is from the regional government of Navarra, and the second one, as I was already mentioning, is the Spanish State Research Agency. We will have future webinars at EU, probably at national level in Italy and in Spain, and we will keep you updated. As once that you are here, we will make sure that you receive this information periodically in case you are interested in joining for these future webinars. So as I was also mentioning, I'm the host, and these 2 speakers, the first one is Juan Cruz Cigudosa, is the Regional Minister of University Innovation and Digital Transformation in the Regional Government of Navarra. And secondly, we will have with us today Victoria Ley. She is the Head of Division of Coordination and Evaluation on the Spanish State Research Agency. And I was already mentioning the facilitation of the discussion will be we will done through Maxime Fortes. She is working in Sciences Po in France. Yes. So I will give the floor to Juan Cruz. Before that, I would like to share with you some some key details from his bio. His PhD is in psychological science from the University of Navarra. He began his professional career focusing on research in human genetics and its relations to cancer and rare disease in 1987. And in 2000, he joined the Spanish National Cancer Research Center as director of the Molecular Cytogenetic Group, where he has worked for 16 years. He has published more than 170 scientist articles, being acknowledged with several academic prizes and distinctions. Also, he taught in master's degree programs at different universities, and he is honorary professor at the Autonomous University and the Complutense University of Madrid. And since 2019, he holds the position of Regional Minister for University Innovation and Digital Transformation. Thank you, Juan, for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Can you hear me properly? Okay, thank you. I will share now my presentation, and I think this will be it. Is that correct?
Aquí. No funciona así.
Can you see it properly? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then I will go on with my presentation. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of having selected Navarra as a piece of token about how can we improve, or how can we try to improve the gender balance in R&D initiatives. Just a brief introduction on Navarra. Navarra is just a small region that is located in the south side of the Western Pyrenees. We are 650 inhabitants that are widely dispersed. Our GPD is the third in Spain, and this GPD comes mainly from industry. We have been very active in industry regarding automation, renewable energy, biomedicine, and agri-food industry. And together with the Basque Country and Madrid, we are at the head of the ranking of regions that are investing in R&D. We are just now 1.67% of our gross GPD is invested in R&D. The presentation, in order to be fast and clear, it will be just quickly go through this point, which are role models and girls empowerment, the university, how is our R&D system oriented in the sense, and the outreach and public impact, and finally, our compliance with the EU framework. Regarding the role models and empowerment, we have decided to adopt a multi-stage strategy that is oriented to sort of mitigate the shortage of women in careers at all levels, at all educational levels. For instance, for the students in primary and secondary education, we financed a project called Planeta STEM, which is intended to promote the empowerment among female students of primary and secondary level. It has been organized by the Pamplona Planetarium, and it includes some local and international activities, such as First Lego League, IGN competition, and so on. As you can see in the slide, an example of it, we foster the participation of 2 teams in the International Genetically Engineered Machine, IGN, contest that takes place in Boston, sorry. We are very proud to say that both teams having won a first medal in the 2019 season. Additionally, during 2020, our department has signed for the first time an agreement with the Public University of Navarra, which is the biggest university in in Navarra, to promote STEM vocations among women. This project involves also the Department of Education and some other actors, and thanks to this agreement, women that are developing their careers in science and technology, so scientists that are working at the university, they carry out workshops, performances, and mentoring for secondary students. This is all about providing female role models for these disciplines. Regarding university, on the other hand, we have favored activities to empower women to progress in their professional careers. For example, This is the first year that we are working. We are in office, and we foster in the call that we have, my department has, for projects that are carried out by different chairs in the University of Navarra. They have to take into account always the consideration of the contribution of all these projects to the SDH number 5, which is gender equality. This also happens, and we have imposed this criteria for the financing that we are doing to the summer courses. Regarding funding, which is actually the focus of this topic of the webinar, we have developed several initiatives that are oriented to achieve equal proportion between men and women at all hierarchical levels on the R&D and innovation system in Navarra. In Navarra, the system has been organized under an acronym, which is called SINAI, and all the actors that are actually working are depicted in the slide, where you can see all the innovation centers, technology centers, universities, and all the R&D institutions. To that end, we have introduced gender criteria as an assessment in almost all calls that we have managed since we are in the office. In this way, we like to play with the two P's, people and projects. Regarding people, those calls that, for instance, we have a call for industrial PhD. In this call, for instance, we require an inclusive and non-sexist language in all the documentation that is submitted to the call. Also, is it established that these applications have to ensure the transmission of an egalitarian image, not associated with gender roles at all. In addition, we provide an additional financial support, 5% over the regular grant, to companies that hire a woman for these projects. In the call for research and technological personnel, again talking about persons, in the evaluation of the proposal, the score and the amount granted will be increased by €1,000 if it includes diversity and inclusion policies, as well as the promotion of work-life balance within the beneficiary company. Regarding projects, our most substantial funding action consists in a big R&D project call, and in this call, one of the evaluated criteria is, again, the contribution of the proposal to the achievement of the SDG 5, gender balance. Also, projects that are positively evaluated, if they have designed taking into account the gender dimension, justifying, has to have it. If justifying, if it's not the case, why this gender dimension has not been considered as a relevant factor in the project. Accordingly to these measures, these are results of the calls that we have launched this year regarding gender balance. You can see in blue female personnel that has been hired for research and technology, and in yellow the male candidates. You can see that, you know, for industrial PhD, we get an equal amount of candidates that have been successful in the application. The research, the number of PIs of the collaborative research call is more of a female gender. And again, also for the technological incorporation of to the industry is again led by the women. Still, there is work to be done because among the directors of this or system of the agents that are actually doing innovation in Navarra, only 36% of them are female versus 64% that are male. So there is still work to be done. Gender dimension, as SENA is another issue. We, together with the Regional Innovation Agency, which is called ADITEC, set up in 2019 the SINAI Gender Research Community, with the purpose of incorporating sex-gender variables into the content of all R&D and innovation projects that are carried out in Navarra. These are some of the highlights that are achieved through this community. 177 people have participated in formative actions on gender perspective, and more than 800 people have attended our Regional Innovation Agency conferences. This community has organized conferences, training workshops, and a help kit for research staff. Regarding outreach, we have actually taken several communication actions to outreach society in general. February, we participated in the roundtable Science, Technology, and Innovation from a Female Angle that was organized by the Pamplona Planetarium. In March, we broadcasted the report Women and Innovation 2020 that was elaborated by the Ministry of Science and Innovation, that was also held at the Pamplona Planetarium. In all those activities that we carry, such as our famous Innovation Friday that we have from my office, we also carefully try and preserve and observe a gender parity for all our speakers in list. Likewise, Navarra, we have recently launched the Navarra 2030 digital strategy that has been a big project from our government. This project includes as an indicator for his follow-up the percentage of new graduates in STEM disciplines compared with total graduates, and specifically the percentage of women that are enrolled on those careers. Finally, as cannot be otherwise, we observe and comply for a law of science and technology that has some points that actually contemplate all issues on gender balance, some of them mentioned previously. And to end this presentation, an acknowledgement of the recommendation of the European Commission, we are doing our best, and we may announce that Navarra already actually follows 2 of the 3 recommendations, of the European Commissions. Among them, we are already done with how the gender perspective is integrated in all the innovation cycle. And we also have disseminated guidelines for the grant applicants, for those people that actually intended to apply. And we are trying and working heavily to allocate some funds for specific programs. And this is what I have to say. Thank you, Jasker. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions from the floor.
Thank you so much, Juan, and allow me to congratulate you and your team, because not only because you was very clear your presentation, but mainly because you saw us this is a very comprehensive manner or comprehensive approach to mainstream gender in everything you do, and to challenge the key gaps that we still have in gender equality in research and innovation, not only to attract talent, to attract female talent, but also to retain it, to break this glass ceiling, and last but not least, to integrate the gender dimension in all the steps of the project cycle. It was really interesting for me, and I'm sure that for all participants, to know from a practical way, specific ways, the criteria that you are integrating in evaluation. So just these few things just to congratulate you. And so with not more delay, I'm going to introduce Victoria. Wait, yes. Probably you have. Okay, so just some brief notes on her amazing bio as well. Victoria is head of the Division of Coordination and Evaluation in the Spanish State Research Agency. She has PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology at the Autonomous University of Madrid. She worked as postdoctoral fellow at the New York University Medical Center from 1986 to 1989, and at the Institut Pasteur in Paris, in France, from 1989 to 1991. Back in Spain, she worked as a researcher in the field of virology until 2003, when she joined the National Evaluation and Prospective Agency, and now is integrated in the Spanish Research Agency. She has been predoc, postdoc, mother abroad, and scientist leader, and now she's scientist manager. Currently, she's in charge of the scientific evaluation, selection, and monitoring of all programs and calls of the agency, as well as the scientific evaluation of many scientific calls of other national and regional ministries, universities, and private institutions. So thank you very much, Victoria, for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much to you and to all the participants. I'm going to share my, I need the permission to share the screen.
Now, Victoria,
Okay.
can you try it?
Yes, thank you. Let me know if you can see it. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so the Spanish State Research Agency is the major funding agency of Spain. We receive yearly about more than 25,000 proposals to evaluate. Most of them are from the agency, so we have also to manage the funding, and some of them are from others external institutions. This is achieved through a high quality peer review evaluation process and monitoring. Okay. The first thing I want to say is the agency has the firm objective of challenging and transforming women's roles, responsibilities, leadership, and visibility linked to scientific careers. We know that we have a problem with this, and we want to identify the context, the problems, and do all we can do to solve or to reduce these inequalities. In November 2018, we created the strategic group on gender equality in the agency, and 2 years later, in last November, we created the we elaborated the gender equality plan, which is going to work for the next 3 years. So the project steps have 5 parts. The first one and the important one is understanding the context. So we need to see what is happening, identifying the needs, designing measures, and then implemented the measures and monitor the.
Victoria, you are muted.
I was muted from the beginning.
No. Just a couple of seconds.
Okay, I did a mistake with the mouse. Okay, thanks. Okay, so based on the diagnosis of the strategic group, as well as from specialized literature and experience, and from the Supera project, we have defined five main areas of working: awareness and training, incorporation, evaluation, and impact of gender. Therefore, we have elaborated this plan with several specific measures, as well as a plan to monitor and progress and evaluate effectiveness. So the targets are three different targets. One is the people, researchers, in this case, researchers. The other is improve the management of the projects, or proposals in general. And the third is the institutional organizations. In terms related to the researchers, what our objectives are: reduce the inequality and underrepresentation of women, especially group leaders, and especially in some areas which have more problems in this. Second, promoting women careers. Third, include gender aspect in criteria and proposal. This is related to the projects. Improve the gender balance in decision-making processes, in panels and committees, etc. And last is promote an institutional culture and training. in the agency and also in the scientific system. What are we doing so far? We have implementing seven measures that I will explain here. First, the analysis and monitoring and dissemination of sex disaggregated data. We have done that in all our calls since last year or 2 years ago. The objective of this measure is to see what is happening and then to try to find ways to fix the problems. I will show you later a couple of slides regarding this. The second one is strength and consolidate the gender equality structures of the agency, internal measures. So to do that, we created the strategic group on gender equality, and we are progressing the constitution of a gender equality unit in the agency. The third one is improve the specific training on gender equality both in the agency. So we are doing annual training courses for all the staff of the agency, and also awareness and training of evaluators. We are preparing materials, and we include in all the guides, evaluation guides, paragraphs with warning the raising of gender perspective of the evaluation for all the evaluation. And we also are using a video that we put before all our committees, evaluation committees, for the evaluators. We are improving the integration of gender perspective in all the calls. We are elaborating supporting materials. For example, we have included in all the calls special criteria to introduce gender perspective, both in the evaluation of the group, research group, also in the evaluation of the impact, for example. And we are also improving the gender equality criteria for the evaluation for gender balance in the evaluation committees. I will show you also a slide on that. And integrating that gender perspective in the evaluation and monitoring. In all the evaluation forms, we have included specific sections to explain the evaluators what have to consider. For example, we have extended the period of evaluation of a career of women, depending if they have, according to their motherhood or other interruptions that they have had in the careers. And we are identifying factors behind different success rates of women and men as principal investigators. This is part of our analysis that I will show you. This is an example of the analysis that we are doing with all the results of all our goals. This is an example of the analysis of the two main project goals, the RTI and PGC. And in this analysis are all in our web page, so you can consult them more carefully. And as you can see, there are the success here. I show you the success rate of both calls disaggregated by area and by call. Normally, we have here. I don't know if you can see this well, but you can consult them in the web page. We are seeing that the success rate of the women is about 4 or 5 points in general, and about 5 points less than men. This is consistent and more pronounced in some areas than in others. Probably you know that, for example, in areas humanities and social science, this difference is less, and in other areas like STEM areas, engineering, physics, mathematics, this difference is bigger. So this is what is happening, and we are seeing. The reasons are, there are many reasons, and not all of them are difference in the evaluation. But we have to assume that there is something in the evaluation system that we can improve. And this is an example of the participation of women in the evaluation committees of young researchers' calls. The most important calls for young researchers of the agency are the Ramón y Cajal and Juan de la Cierva. And as you can see, in the last 6 years, from 2014 until now, 2020, we have improved the participation of women in these committees. We are now about 48% of women, which is, I think, is good, considering that the participation of women in the research system in Spain is about 36%, and to participate in these committees, we need that the persons have a certain experience. They had to have been principal investigators with a good scientific career, etc. So we make a very big effort to equilibrate the gender in these panels. Okay, these are the two last slides. So thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria.
Sorry, I could not quote it again. Thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you, Maxine, for starting. I have to congratulate you all, as you know, because we have been very close in this joining this traveling this through these 2 years for being here, for having this gender equality plan in the state agency. But it's the biggest step, but it's not the beginning. Is because, as you have been showing, the implementation of many measures from this gender equality plan, as they are already in development, or they are already implemented. But I would like to highlight just two things on your fantastic presentation and the content of the plan. That is, I think it's really good to have a gender equality plan that is covering both aspects. Because this is the approach for an institutional change. It is internally, working gender equality internally within the organization, and also externally, being aware of the impact that your gender equality plan can have in the gender equality in other institutions. And also doing it in this dual way, mainstreaming gender equality, not only for women, from the increasement of women and the career development and facilitating work-life balance, but also in the integration of the gender dimension within projects and calls. And I'm really happy to see, for you to explain some of these examples of criteria that they are already in your gender equality plan. So thank you so much, Victoria. And now, Maxime, the floor is yours for questions and answers.
Yes, thank you, Sulema. So we start to have quite a few questions. I will start certainly with the first that were posted and were directed primarily to the Navaran case, to Juan Cruz. So the first question was, but that might apply as well, I guess, to the Spanish Research Agency as well. How have the researchers responded or reacted to the requirements that have been implemented regarding gender equality? So it was a question from the Estonian Research Council, the Estonian Research Funding Organization, to Navarra, but I guess that both can answer on that one.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think that all measure has been widely positively well accepted. And I think it's something that we share with the community. So I think the need to achieve a proper gender balance is seen by all the actors in the community, not only as a need, but as an advantage. We all truly believe that an inclusive science is a better science. So I think that is something that you have to foster, and we send the message and people share this message. Additionally, our office, Aditec, has provided all actors with guides and personalized help in order to, when they're writing the application, properly, install or include this criteria. Also, because I think that they actually, when you teach somebody how to include or be aware of all these issues, I think they find the application easier to write. And probably they will be more convinced that the application is better, and probably their day-to-day life is also better if they take into account these considerations.
Thank you, Juan Cruz, for your answer. Another question directly for you as well, this time from Innoviris, the Brussels Capital Region Research Funding Agency. Do you have domain-specific figures, so area-specific figures, on the positive impact of the financial incentive for a project to appoint a woman in the project teams, especially in the ICT or in computer sciences sector? It is widely known that it's quite difficult to make the team's gender balance, especially due a problem in terms of pool, insufficient pool. At least it is the argument. So how this type of measure is improving the situation, for instance, in ICTs?
Thank you for the question. I think I have two messages to send here. One is that we are actually noticing that we are recovering the gender balance in terms of university applications. So people, we are sort of mitigating the gap in terms of women that are interested in pursuing computer science career. We are seeing that numbers, but still we are, the region is small. So I think that probably our data will not reach statistical significance by their own if we take, if we dip into the several domains. But still, I think it will be a good idea if they are common interest on, pursuing all this analysis, that probably we will share this data or data with some other regions that are of the same size, and we can try to work together. So I think the Supera project is intended to do so, and I'm very happy to be here and to share our data to achieve some significance. This is particularly evident for computer science, but at least in Navarra, the gender gap is not that clear for other STEM disciplines. We are pretty well equal in terms of gender balance for other disciplines such as agri-food, for instance, and biological, all kinds to do with agro industry in terms of biology. So I think the numbers are small. We're happy to share, and I think things are improving, but not at the speed that we need.
Yeah, actually, thank you for your answer. There was another question that was related to this question of pool, and it is the following from someone from Universitat Jaume. Attracting young women into science is strategic because Europe needs more highly skilled people, and women represent 50% of the population. But so how far or to which extent gender-related strategies are aiming not just at stimulating gender equality, but also at enlarging the pool of high-skilled workforce, especially by dragging more women, for instance, into this type of fields. So it is a question for both. In your cases, how your strategies are also addressing this question of the pool and of involving more women into high-skilled workforce in research and innovation.
Victoria, can you answer first, and then I will try to go to a small region perspective.
Well, I just would like to comment also that is related, but it's not exactly with this question, is the previous one, that in the agency, the evaluation is only scientific evaluation, and this is the only one, scientific evaluation in all aspects, including the impact. So we have to assure, and we think it's not difficult, but I want to reinforce this idea that all the measures that we have implemented are not reducing the scientific evaluation, the scientific merits. They are not. We are not giving points, extra points to women just because they are women. What we are doing is evaluate the global trajectory of the persons or the proposals, and include gender perspective to equilibrate, to doing more fair the thing. For example, if a person has been interrupted the career for 1 year, men or women, because they have children, for example, or they have taking care of somebody, we are reducing, we are increasing the period to be evaluated for both. So this is very important because we don't want that the society or the research community has the impression that we are giving extra points to women for being women. So our evaluation is the same quality, and always peer review, is not quantitative. And now I'm going to answer this specific question that I forgot. Sorry.
No, I just reminded you. I just remind you, Victoria. Don't worry. It was a generic question. To which extent the strategies on gender equality that your two institutions have adopted are dealing with the question of increasing the overall number of women involved in science and innovation, that is choosing these fields and becoming high-skilled workers that Europe needs?
I think Juan is better to answer this, because we are dealing with a population that have already decided his
to be a researcher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we do agree that closing gender gap not only gives rise to a more fair, productive science and innovation, but also that these actions also spill over to an economy that has to be based in a bigger extent into knowledge and innovation, and less into reducing costs. So I think we are doing good things. You know, I don't think that there's an option of this gender-related strategy versus a more intensive, knowledge strategy. I think both are together. For instance, we have data in our calls. We have PIs that are women in all industrial sectors of the call, except for renewable energies. We have for mechatronic, we have for automotion and everything. So I think we are creating something that is bigger and better, including this gender, if you mean, bias. But we also, I think that really we should increase more things, because a better science and a more productive science will be achieved by including other underrepresented collectives like LGBTIQ, migration, and racialized communities that actually probably will all together bring, us a perspective that is better in terms of, transmit to the economy the knowledge and provoking than the economy has probably a better perspective for the future if we take into account all these knowledge, points.
Yes, thank you, Juan Cruz. And in answer to this question, if I may add from my side, I know also that Navara is delivering project on preventing gender bias in secondary education and primary education as well. Scolae project was awarded the UNESCO Prize for girls and women education, and it is also a way to deal with gender bias that end up with less women being involved in some fields. So that might be also connected. If I may, I would like to move to the next question, because we have still a few, which are the last one for Juan Cruz before we move to a question directed to the Spanish Research Agency, is whether you did, it's connected to your latest answer actually. You mentioned the private sector and industry and economy. Did you direct specific measures to industries and firms in the calls that you launch with relation to gender equality?
Yeah. We have several incentives for actually all the industrial PhD and technology calls are oriented to incorporate people with a profound knowledge of science and technology into the companies, in private companies. So actually, most of the majority of the successful applications coming from private industry. We have a territory which is very that has innovation in their own DNA. So most people, even small companies that have less than 10 people or 20 people are assuming innovation as a way to growth. And this innovation, many times it comes from people that are actually connected or hired through these kind of programs. And in these programs is where we actually been specifically successful in incorporating women.
Thank you very much. There is actually another question for you that popped up in the meantime from Alain. There are 57% of women as principal investigators in collaborative project. What was the figure before? What has actually been the impact of the measure to get to those 57%?
Sorry, I couldn't.
I will repeat. Okay. Sorry. So there is you mentioned that there is currently 57% of women principal investigators in collaborative project. What was the figure before you implemented the measure? Just to check the impact.
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't. I cannot share yet the data. We are doing. I think this is. We have seen an inflection in the curve this year. But I don't think that it could be, it's not a big jump. Probably it will be around less than 50, but not too far away from the 50. So I would like to have a more complete and long history on this data.
Okay, but this
also, also for the first time, we have sectorized the call. So now we know the information on, energy and biomedicine and so on. So it will probably, we have to dig into the data to have a proper vision of this.
Okay. So I move this time to other question for Victoria, actually. One was about training evaluators, project evaluators on gender biases sound like something essential. So since when your own evaluators have been trained at the AA? Victoria, if you can answer on that.
Yes, we started 2 years ago, as far as I know, seriously 2 years ago, by several ways. First, we sent all of them a guide on how to evaluate, and in this guide we stress that they have to consider a gender perspective, in both in the evaluation of the scientific career of the IPs and all the participants, as well as in the project. In the project, we tell them to look at the gender perspective in the impact of the society impact, and also, for example, in the equilibrium of the roles of men and women in the project, in the proposals. We want to increase the visibility of the women in science, and many times they are in the second place or in the third place. Many times they are doing the same work, but I don't know why they are in the second place instead of in the first place, for example. So we in the guide we include all these things to remember, to stress that these things are important, and to warn about any bias that they can have. In addition, when they come to the committees, we play a video, which is very good, which is the same video that is used in the European Research Council about gender bias in evaluation. And I think it's a 10 minutes video, which is very well done, and they all like it. And I think this is having already a result. We are seeing a change in general, both in the experts, also in the people who is coming, and also in the people from the agency.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned different actions in relation to raising awareness. There was another question about training, more specifically about content, how those trainings are being delivered, and do you have a full gender training plan implemented?
Well, in addition of this, we are doing courses for training for all the staff of the agency. We just finished one of them last week, and this course we are being helped by the Supera people, which is very helpful. And I don't know if you want to do the program, or maybe.
But this is maybe the type of information you can share after, actually, because I think it can be interesting to other RFOs who are.
Yes, I think Zulema can answer this.
Yes, Zulema, if you want to
Yes,
complement the answer.
I was about, sorry, Maxime. Yeah, I was thinking of doing at the end, not to interrupt, but now that Victoria was mentioning it, it was a part of this training programs that we support our organisms within the ministry, plus the support of Supera projects. So the idea of the content is to go from this this broader understanding of gender equality and how to include gender equality, not only in projects, because I think that question was more focused on evaluation. This was not the aim of the course. The course was focused on all the staff and introduce them on a basic level to ensure that everyone has the same context in terms of gender equality policies, in research and innovation, and also in the key key concepts, and also the integration of the gender dimension we also mentioned. Probably the idea with the support of the Supera team will be to support the state agency in developing more like a repository. It's like identify content and to have them all together for to be used for the agency. And we are also working, that is from the MIC, from the Women and Science Unit, in providing online content. And we are developing now some guidelines for integrating and evaluating gender dimension in projects. Probably that will have a focus and will be very useful for this evaluation. So all in all, we will be working hand by hand with the agency in developing these contents and this capacity building for evaluators as well.
Thank you, Zulema. You anticipated on another question, which was related to your plans at the agency with regard to integrating the gender perspective in research content itself. So maybe you will have a couple words more for responding to that. And there is a full bunch of questions for the agency showing the interest for the different instruments that you are designing, which is generally speaking about the accessibility and publicity of your instrument. Is your gender equality plan already accessible online for the next period? The guidelines that you have designed for your evaluators, are they also accessible, as well as some gender disaggregated data as those that you have commented in the presentation, Victoria? So generally speaking about the visibility of those instruments and resources, and also maybe a couple of words more about addressing the gender perspective in research content of the project.
May I finish, Victoria, and then I give the floor to you first?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the main priorities from the UMIC, from the Gender, Women and Science unit for this year will be to support research centers, but also RFOs, not only the agency, but also our ISTI, the Carlos III Health Institute, because it's also a funding organization apart from the research center, for this evaluation of calls and the integration of the gender perspective. That will be step by step, and that will be also done in the framework of the Observatory of Women, Science and Innovation, where we are developing some working groups for identifying and implementing or proposing good practices in that sense. So that will be the work for this year. From the UMIC, we will be having these guidelines. Some guidelines for evaluating gender dimension, and the other one for supporting research teams in integrating the gender dimension, because it's not always easy. There's some topics that it's more difficult. Especially, I'm very interested in the proposal from Juan regarding explaining in the call why you are not integrating the gender dimension. I took note of that because I found it very interesting. And also we will be developing some training programs, training models, but for all the staff, not only for the agency, but for all the staff, and everything will be available for the state agency to take and to tailor it for their own needs. And that will be with the support also with the Supera project, and especially from Maria. We are asking Maria Bustelo from her help from time to time in supporting us on that. And all that you will be having in the gender equality area in the website of the ministry at this moment, coming from this from the MIC, you will have it all.
Okay, thank you, Zulema. Maybe just to clarify, are there already some of those data or instruments like the guidelines which are accessible online prior to the update of the website? Not yet.
No, for the guidelines, no. I'm not about the video Victoria was mentioning. The video is there, and now we are working in this repository. Yes, we are collecting all this information. We will place them together, and we will share it with the state agency team to identify which of them they want, and they will be accessible for everyone. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you. Just to complement maybe this answer with regard to the accessibility of resources and for inspiration, especially for research funding organization, just to mention that on the website of the Supera project, the gender equality plan of the regional Sardinian funding agency in Italy is available. I think it's only in Italian, but reading Italian is is something feasible, at least for Spanish speakers or French speakers among the attendants. And there are also other examples of JEPs published on our website, also in English as for the Central European University, but that's on the RPO side. And on GEAR, you can also, on the GEAR tool of the European Institute of Gender Equality, you can access more resource for inspiration of RPOs from Austrian or Czech funding agencies providing information about their respective gender equality strategies and plans and actions. Another question that comes from Maria Bustelo, from the coordinator of the Supera project, is with regard to involving gender expertise, because in the interim evaluation of gender equality as a cross-cutting issue under Horizon 2020, the European Research Framework Program, it was concluded that beyond having gender balance among evaluation committees, what really mattered was integrating gender in the evaluation. And for integrating gender in the evaluation was to have gender expertise in those evaluation panel. Is this also something that you consider in both in your respective organization, to involve people with specific gender knowledge to evaluate projects?
Well, I can start if you like.
Yeah, please go ahead, Victoria.
There are several programs, projects that are that need gender evaluation. I mean, gender expertise. For example, many of the social projects or psychology or education in all of the areas, but in some of them are much more frequent. So we have a specific area for feminist and women studies with experts in gender. We have in the agency, there is a scientific area which is just for this kind of projects. But in addition, we include in a transversal way in all the areas and in all the projects criteria addressing gender perspective. For example, in the as I told you before, in the impact, the participants of the project, the equilibrium in the group, and methodology, and all kind of things. We cannot have gender specialists in all the committees, because this is impossible, and some of the projects are already very specific. For example, working on bacteria or things that it's difficult to integrate the gender perspective. But in all of them we have. And also this group is willing to help any other committees in the agency evaluation to help in any question about gender.
Thank you, Victoria. I don't know if Sulema want to add something, or Juan Cruz on.
Yeah, I think
Yes?
I may add a little bit. I think, yes, we do have experts. We have a governmental office, which is called Navarra Institute for Equality. And this, they have experts that actually are supervising both the process of how we write the basis of the codes in order to provide a space for this kind of gender, and also making advance about how these criteria should be evaluated in the weight of the final evaluation. So we have experts that are helping us with this thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sulema.
In our case from the UMIC, what we are doing is identifying and analyzing different manners, different ways to do it, and to provide some proposals not only from the state agency, but also for other RFOs, to tailor them to the content and the situation of each of these research funding organizations, and to identify the best way to integrate this double approach. That one from Victoria was saying, is having gender as part of the FEM call, and then to make sure that if we are mainstreaming gender as a criteria, it's evaluated in the best manner. So we are now in the process of identifying ways and proposals for these RFOs coming from our ministry to be implemented.
Thank you, Sulema. There is actually another question for your agency, which is if it plans to implement a specific program to support universities and research centers in designing and implementing their own gender equality plans first, and possibly also in developing gender expertise in their research units. Do you have such plans in course?
Excuse me, plans to include?
Programs that the agency will implement to support research centers, research units, and universities to develop their own gender equality plans on one side, and to maybe increase their own gender expertise.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We don't have this in our plans, but I think it's a very good idea. We can collaborate with institutions and centers at universities on this kind of things.
And maybe to complement on this, just for the attendants to be aware that the European Commission at EU level is developing tools because, as you know, having a gender equality plan becomes an eligibility criteria for European research funding from Horizon Europe. And there will be a short period of transition until 2022 before it is actually really enforced. But during this period, the European Commission will provide new tools and facilities for institutions to develop their own gender equality plans. So efforts are to be done also at national level. I know that there is some support from my Ministry of Research in France, in my home country, but there is also resource at EU level to do so, just for you to know.
Maxime, yes, if I may.
Yes.
If I may, just for you to know that we are providing, we are starting working in providing this support from the UMIC, from the ministry itself, because it might be a bit more difficult, as Victoria was saying, to develop in the agency a specific program targeting research organizations, but we can count on them because we have a network at the ministry level from all of RPOs and RFOs. We sit together every 3 months and we develop this need. We identify this need and we develop some good practices or some actions. And this is one of them. We are going to be developing along this year some guidelines to support not only our research organization, but also research centers at the university level for them to understand and to start working in these gender equality plans, because we are aware how important it is for them, for all of us, to provide them with the support they need to ensure that they have implemented these gender equality plans. So we will make sure that we do it together, not only the Spanish state agency of research, but from the ministry as a key supporter.
And Maya Bustelo was also mentioning in the chat box that there might be also the possibility to have a flying gender expert to support evaluation panels. That is to have a pool of, I guess, of gender experts that could be dispatched depending on relevance to project to be examined. I don't know if that could be an option, but that's also some food for thought, I guess. There was also, and that's for now the last question we have. There might be a few more because we still have a bit of time ahead, which takes us back actually to the beginning of the discussion. You have a mandate, both you have mandates for evaluating research and good science and research quality. And there is a question about how to balance this mandate with the necessity, which is largely proven when it comes to changing numbers and to have, for instance, more women involved as principal investigators the necessity of positive measure, of positive action, how to deal with maybe the contradiction, I don't know, between objective fair evaluation and positive action on the other side, or is it to you perfectly compatible? That's a question for both.
I think it's perfectly compatible. If you look at the production, I mean, the productivity of the person who has done the or is applying. For example, we don't count. I mean, if the evaluation is not quantitative, you can look at all of these things. Why? What has been the scientific production of the person? What has been the participation in each of the projects? What is what difficulties has had? For example, it's not the same working in Harvard as working in Cuenca, for example, in Spain. It's not the same. All these things, we have to look all the global history and trajectory of the persons. And I think if you look all these things, it's compatible to do a scientific evaluation, high quality, and taking in account all the other aspects, particularly gender.
Thank you, Victoria. Juan Cruz, do you agree with that? And do you have any more comment on this?
No, I think gender and science has not to compete in terms of what is more important. I think both things have to be taken into consideration. I agree with Victoria saying, we have the time and we have the duty of doing the best for our citizens, and that includes taking into consideration all needs that are there. And one need has not to preclude the other one. So everything has to be, balanced out at the end.
And one question more for you, Juan Cruz. We know also from positive action implementation that something, the evil is in the details. That you may have project with more women appointed as PIs and benefiting from the incentive, the financial incentive you provide, but maybe in the course of the project they are dropped out and a man show up in their position. Is it something that you monitor throughout the project, whether the composition of the team is changing?
Yeah, I think we haven't started with all this measure. We haven't had a tracking history that allows us to take any good insight about it. I think because the size that we have and the kind of monitoring that we have, we closely monitor all projects in a 3-month basis. So I will let you know for the next meeting next year if we can think about it.
Yeah, usually this is something that shows up over the course, so it might happen. We no longer have questions, but since we have a few minutes left, and before I direct everyone to filling in the evaluation questionnaire for this webinar, maybe a couple question more will show up.
I want to say something that I have seen in the chat that there is something that asking for our plan.
Yes.
If it will be published. I think from now, you can put Zulema, you can put the plan in the repository of the Supera. I think is the easiest way for you to take it. But I have to tell you that so far it's only in Spanish. So we are translating it, and I think next week it will be translated to English. But now it's only a Spanish version.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question to answering Maxime. So the program just started where we have said, I think I've been pointed out by my director general here, say that we monitor the changes in the gender of the IP members, and then we ask them what was the reason. So they have to justify any kind of change in that line.
Okay, thank you for complementing your answer. Si no hay más preguntas, S'il n'y a pas de plus de questions, if there are no more questions from the audience, I put it in different languages so that those who are a little bit shy to write in English can ask. Yeah, there is a last question, which is one often posted actually during this kind of webinars from Carmen Fenol. It seems that most participants in this webinar are women. What will be the answer?
I agree. It's something that I always want to fight it. Why so few men are interested in this such a big problem?
I have no answer for that. I am man and I'm involved, so I have no idea.
And the panel at least is gender balanced, but this is our duty actually yeah. to steer for gender balance. That's already something, right? And there was a question also posted from Ascension Barajas. We say that a challenging point is to include the gender perspective in the evaluation of the social impact of public programs. But do you think that those programs are designed according to this gender perspective? So how should we introduce the gender perspective also in the design of programs themselves?
Yeah.
That will be our last question.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to, for instance, for us it's clearly easy because women are the majority of the people that are actually designing the program. So I don't think that we have such a problem, but I think we should structure a norm for taking in consideration that when you are actually defining the program, you should have this kind of gender balance in advance. I agree with that.
Thank you, Juan Cruz. No more compliments from Victoria or Sulema? No. Otherwise, I will kindly invite all the attendees to fill in the evaluation questionnaire. That's really important for further improving this kind of gathering that we hope are useful to everyone. It was like a successful one. We had over 100 people on board, up to 120 I've seen during the session. So here is the exit questionnaire. Post it was in the chat box, and here you can access it. And we strongly encourage you to fill in it as soon as possible, preferably right now, within the time that you plan to devote to this webinar that was planned to end at 12:30 and will end a little bit earlier. And I will also thank from my facilitation position the contributors to this panel, and let the word to the host, maybe to Zulema back.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Zulema, do you want to
close?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I was checking because we forgot there is something else to share with you. I'm trying to go back to the why I cannot. Apologies, I'm struggling with okay, because they were telling me that we didn't share this part. Yes, the last that is here. No, this two. Okay. In case you want to join us in this newsletter from the Supera, and also some two tools that you were also already mentioned, Maxime. They're also here in case you are interested. So it was just these two, just for practicalities. And now, just to close with this interesting webinar, thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, for the organization, for the team that was behind, and to the participants for joining us. I think we all think that it was a success. And thank you especially to Juan and to Victoria for sharing with us today your good practices, your experience, and I promise you that I was taking good notes for sharing also these ideas here, and to push for them and to work with them. I think this is a matter of that concerns us all. It's not at all levels. So each of us, we can do a lot, or we can do a lot, doing a bit for mainstreaming gender equality and for gender equality in research and innovation. So yes, a closing remark, thank you. It was a very fruitful session, and we hope to see you in the next webinars and to carry on sharing with you this work and this focus, this inspiration in working in gender equality. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.